Our next speaker, Genevieve Walton, very enthusiastic, energetic young lady. I heard about her probably 7 or 8 months ago, and actually, believe it or not, have referred people to you without even knowing you. Her folks were in the toy business, I believe, bachelor's degree from the Sprott, BCom, some issues with calculus, I hear, through the grapevine, but real hard worker. So this is Airbnb, very exciting. Once again, this is an example of how Tony and Sue have put everything together and really touched on every topic possible. And this is real people that do business with, real people that you know and trust. Genevieve Walton is a young entrepreneur with a passion for business. Before starting her company, she spent several years working in the real estate and property management industry in sales and business development. Genevieve took a leap of faith when she saw an opportunity in Ottawa's emerging Airbnb market and founded Short and Sweet B&B. Today, Short and Sweet is Ottawa's largest Airbnb property management company with over 150 properties across the city and over 400,000 guests accommodated in the last 2 years. Put your hands together for Genevieve Walton.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm really excited to be here. So my name is Genevieve. I own Short and Sweet B&B. It's an Airbnb property management company specializing in downtown Ottawa. So essentially, we do the area of Vanier to Westboro, and we work for investors, developers, and private landlords. So what we specialize in is duplexes, triplexes, and multi-unit residents. So what kind of makes this different is that we do not specialize in I'm going on vacation, I want to rent my home, or I have a cottage, or whatever it may be. We specialize specifically for the investors. And what this really means is it's running on a 12-month cycle, and it's more of an aggressive model. So you're taking that rental unit or you're taking that spare house and you're converting it strictly to Airbnb. So what that means is that there is no close in the units. That's the best way to describe it. So whenever I start this presentation, everyone wants to know what is my worst story. I think Andrew knows my worst Airbnb story. So it happened on Parkdale and Scott Street. It was a couple in a 400 square foot little bachelor. They essentially rented it for 7 days. Everything was going great. They decided to extend for another 7 days. So I get a call from the landlord and he says, number 4 is having a baby. I said, yes, she's having a baby. And they said, no, number 4 is actually having a baby in the unit. And I said, oh, okay. So I run over and yes, she was having a baby. In 20 minutes, she delivered a 9.2 pound baby and his name is Alex. So that's probably the weirdest story that I have from Airbnb. So my intention today is really to educate you what's actually happening in these units, what the market looks like in Ottawa, and how you can invest. I think there's misconceptions of what happens in these units, and that's really what we're here to be at the forefront and the provider of the largest Airbnbs in Ottawa, to really educate you what's happening. So Short and Sweet B&B, we have actually 208. This is our door count right now, which is awesome. We put it behind the suite, which is really exciting. And so with that, we've done over 400,000 guests and about 2,000, I don't have my glasses on here, which is hard, 2,000 accommodations or trips. So when a guest books, that classifies as a 1 trip, even though they could stay for a couple months. So that's where those numbers come into play. So what is an Airbnb property management company? You've probably seen them in Montreal, you've probably seen them in Toronto. We are the largest in Ottawa, and what that essentially means is that we are setting prices and dominating this industry. So we're using strategic marketing, SEO searches, for example, Google Ads, to really promote us to the top of it. We're a premium pro host. So has anyone heard of a super host? What is a super host? Exactly. So to be a super host, you have to do 10 trips and have a 4.8 standing with Airbnb. What to be a pro host is, you have to do over 50 properties, and to be a premium pro host means you have to do over 5 million in sales. So we just hit 11.2 million in sales strictly on Airbnb, which is awesome. So what this means essentially is that we are dominating the market and moving it forward. So we are setting prices for other hosts to come in and try to match those prices or beat that price. For landlords, we're doing their cleanings, their check-ins, their check-outs, interacting with guests, doing insurance claims, resolution Essentially, it's a full-service Airbnb property management company. It's just specializing in short-term. So short-term for us is anything under 5 days. 5 days or more is a long-term stay for us. The biggest difference between that is our competitive advantage, which is pretty much going into the brand development, our SEO searches, and that we're setting those market trends. So as an investor, what are you looking for at this point? So you're going to look at things like price, amenities, and location. Where do you think is the most profitable area for an Airbnb right now? Private market. Okay, anywhere else? Any? Cool. So you might be surprised it's actually Chinatown. Why do you think that is? Food. So I think it was Nick who mentioned about Mechanicsville. Is that correct? Yes. I 100% agree with that as well. So the biggest reason that Chinatown right now is doing so well is one, because of the Chinese demographic, and two, because of the LeBreton Flats development. So what's happening is construction workers are actually staying in our units. So what that means is actually corporate partners are paying for it. It's not an individual consumer. They're renting it for 10 days on, 4 days off, 10 days on, 4 days off. So that really allows us to get it's more corporate money than individual money that's coming in. So they're mostly occupied at this point by the Chinese demographic, or they're occupied by construction workers. The next best place is the Glebe. Why do you think the Glebe? Yep. Anything else? There's really no hotels there. Yeah, there's really no hotels. So the only real place that they can stay is there. The other thing with the Glebe is the Glebe and Westboro are pretty much occupied by residents of the Glebe and Westboro. So what happens is that they are going to renovate their home and they move into the Airbnb that's like 2 doors down. So it's kind of good. They can keep an eye on their construction, and they're also close to home at that point. The next most profitable area is Hindenburg, and that's mostly because of the Civic Hospital and the Stats Canada. So those are people that are coming in to work at Stats Canada, or they're people that are going to the hospital or seeing loved ones at the hospital. And the next is Byron Market. The hard part with Byron Market is it's a very weird demographic. So you have MPs or professionals that are coming in Monday to Friday, and then you have people that are there, tourists, that are coming in Friday and Saturday. That makes it very hard to market these units because they're two different separate crowds. To be quite honest, I think someone spoke about that there was a lot of Airbnbs in Byron Market. We don't actually have a lot in the Byron Market. Mostly because it's very hard to market and it's very seasonal. So kind of like the restaurants down there, we see high peaks in the summer and then really low peaks in the winter. So that's why we don't have too much in that area. So these are our stats. This is based over 15 months. And this was on 178 properties. So running at 91% occupancy and an average price point of $156. So the average consumer believes that Airbnb is cheaper. It is on a longer term stay. It is not on a one-night stay. A good example is a rental unit that was maybe, let's say, a one-bedroom, $1,000 before. The consumer's paying about $160 to stay there. The reason being is that they have Airbnb fees, they have HST that they have to pay as well, they have accommodations tax at 4% that they have to pay, and the cleaning fee. So when all those come down, the unit might have actually been like $80 at night or $100 a night, but once you add all those fees, it's really expensive to stay just for one night. And that comes into added value. It's very trendy, it's very bougie right now to stay in Airbnbs. That's why you're seeing these go for $160 a night when they used to rent for like $1,000, right? So they're lower end units sometimes. So these are the numbers. These are net, so after you pay myself. These are typically what these Airbnbs, at least in our portfolio, are making currently. So a bachelor and a one-bedroom don't have too much variation, and the reason being is done by head count. So what that means is we're pretty much pricing $40 to $60 per head that stays at the place. So with a bachelor, you can fit up to 4 people. Let's say if you had a sofa bed in it. Same with the one-bedroom. It's really hard to get that discrepancy between the two. Where it gets really good is in the 3 bedrooms. So what do we say to our guys is either go really big or go really small. So get a bachelor or one-bedroom, or go for those 3 or 4 bedrooms. We have, for example, on 3rd Avenue, we have a duplex that makes $22,000 a month, and then we have ones that, let's say, make $1,800 a month. It all varies of what you're putting into these units and what you're getting back, and your old market rent as well. But typically, these are what you're seeing the highest returns of. So it is a seasonal business. Essentially, November, December, and January are really rough. No one's really traveling. Last week, extremely rough too, right? The It really depends on weather patterns. There is some variation in terms of seasonality. The good part about December is you do have the holidays in there, that does help. And then in February, you do have Winterlude, which helps as well. So when we're looking to increase value, we're essentially looking to add to the consumer's experience. So one thing that we really want to do is create more beds in the place. So I think we talked earlier about the maximum number of people. I think it was Kayla who talked about other people coming into the units and not being able to control that. With Airbnb, you can control that. So essentially, let's say you put that the unit holds 4 people. Then what you say, and let's say there's 2 beds. Then what you say is every person over 4 is $100. If you have external cameras, you can then charge that person $100 because they've stayed and they've broken your house rules. So that's sort of how it works on that side. So you can control how many people are coming in and going. We base our things on head count. So when we're pricing $40 to $60, it's per head. And that's really where you're getting that extra price point. So if you're putting that sofa bed in, it is going to help your price point. Parking is really hard to find, obviously, in downtown Ottawa. It's increasing your price point about 14%, which is awesome. Same with air conditioning. That's really hard. I think some of our coolest units are the ones that are unique experiences. So those are ones that are branded. So they might be a Canadian theme. We have one on clearance that's all pizza. It's got like pizza drapes, pizza pillows, pizza comforters. So pretty much with that one, you stay in the pizza place for 1 or 2 nights. That's maximum that's ever stayed there. And you get a free pizza. So it's kind of cool. So I think what you see in the media is what's happening. I'm sure you've seen horror stories of what happens in the units. So I'm kind of here today to educate you on what's actually happening in these units, because it's not really what's actually happening. So this is October snapshot of how many trucks we had, so just over 2,000, and how many problems we did have. The biggest issues that we have, to be quite frank, are smoking marijuana and prostitutions in these units. And really there's ways to overcome those and keep that out, and there's also ways to mitigate that risk, and we'll talk about that later. But this is a screenshot of October. The reasons from October is because we actually didn't have any in November and December, so I couldn't really do anything with it. So what these claims are is when a guest breaks house rules. So you get to set your house rules. When a guest breaks them, you essentially go to a resolution center through Airbnb and submit to get funds back. There's the common misconception that you are taking a security deposit. Airbnb doesn't have a security deposit. It's essentially a deterrent. If you're Airbnb hosted here, you'll see it says like you can put in your security deposit. It actually doesn't do anything. It doesn't put a hold on their card. It doesn't do anything. It's a misconception in the platform. So you're going through a resolution center. You're submitting a claim with a receipt that says however much it would be. Let's say it's $200 in this case. The guest has 24 to 72 hours to accept or deny the claim. If they press deny, it goes to Airbnb for essentially a burden. If they press accept, it charges their credit card. Does that make sense? So common misconception is there is no security deposit. It's not like a hotel where they take it. You have to go submit a claim, so everything's fair for it. So we had 2 claims in October. Those were both for smoking marijuana. We lost both of those claims, to be quite honest. The main reason that we lost them is because you cannot actually physically see it. So it's very hard to say to someone or to Airbnb, who's based out of San Francisco, that someone smoked in your unit, because you can't actually see it. To be quite honest, marijuana comes out in about 20 minutes with our cleaners. They wash the holes with vinegar, and you move on. It is legal now, so it's kind of hard. You're kind of going to lose that battle on that one. But most of them, let's say there's any damage, you submit a receipt or submit an invoice for whatever the work is, and more than likely you do get those funds back. It's just like smells and noise that you can't get back. So what is a typical guest? Right now we're running on 54% return business per month, which is awesome. We essentially use Airbnb as a lead generation system. So we capture the lead through Airbnb, and then we're emailing them back out exclusive discounts. So we take that lead and then try and capture it later on and get them to return business to us. So on average, it's about 54% is coming back to us, which is great. And then the rest is around corporate. So really Airbnb's push in the direction of targeting families and targeting corporate partners. So they want businesses to come in, and then they want large families taking, let's say, those beautiful big lean homes to come in as well. So this is a really cool unit. I actually adore this place. It's at Kenton Cooper. There's 4 in a 6-plex. They have 3 bachelors and 1 3-bedroom. The 3-bedroom does around $4,800 per month, and the bachelors do around $2,600 per month. The old market rents would have been $1,500 for that 3-bedroom. It's pretty old. He actually renovated. It's probably closer to like 19 he would get now. And then the little bachelors are not renovated at all, and those used to be around like $950 that he'd get. So he's doing pretty well in those returns, and those are net after he pays me. So why I want to showcase this one is essentially what he's done is he's done a very aggressive model with Airbnb. So he's tried to create a sense of friction-free traveling. So he's got keypads on every single door, parking spots for every place, air conditioning in every unit. So that really helps creating a friction-free experience. It's also in a great location, and he's allowed the traveler to come and go as they please. Local partnerships, this is an added value that we're doing to our partners. You'll see that the companies in Toronto and Montreal do this as well. So they'll go out to the community and try and get people to provide exclusive discounts to them. So let's say 15% or 20% or 2-for-1 apps or whatever it may be, they provide those exclusive discounts. So when a guest stays with us, they go onto the website, they put in a code, and then they get these exclusive partnerships. So that's really helpful. So I hope that helped kind of clarify a little bit about Airbnb, what's exactly happening in the industries. Does anyone have any questions? Yeah. Yeah, so we're commission-based. So it's 15 to 25% of the nightly rate, and then cleaning, which is paid by the travelers. So when a guest books, let's say it's $100, we're taking 15% of that, and then on top of that, they're paying cleaning, which we take the cleaning fee. And that includes your restocking of supplies and your linens. We use a linen service, so it's actually done by Canadian Linens. They come, they drop the linens off to us. Pretty much the crew's loading up like cargo vans and going out and doing the cleaning at that point. So no laundry is actually done in your unit. So when a cleaner comes in, it's probably about 20 minutes that they'll be in your unit. Any other questions? What I will say is shitty furniture attracts shitty guests. So if you don't want problems in your unit, then absolutely. We believe in proactive responsible hosting, which essentially means that you are screening these guys before they come in. Because what we don't want to do is having to kick people out. So what happens with Airbnb is that if they break house rules, you can cancel the reservation, and then they're trespassing at that point. So it's a little bit different than, let's say, a tenant. But if you elevate your unit and make it as beautiful as possible and most desirable, you attract those people. If you don't, it's going to be a little bit harder. That's not to say there's not the need for those low-level units, but it is more attractive for, if you don't want that clientele, don't set it up that way. Yeah. Yeah? That's us who's vetting them. Exactly. So we're doing all the communication between the guest and myself. Airbnb's not. So Airbnb bases it on star ratings. So essentially, it's 5 stars. It means that you're a great guest. 1 star means that you're a horrible guest. But let's say you get a new person who's never been in. We're definitely screening, and we are screening 5-star guests as well. Because I would say what happens, and maybe this isn't here. What happens with these units is people are not watching them properly. And that's where we've really taken this market, is we believe in responsible hosting and educating other consumers and other hosts on being responsible hosts. What that means is checking your properties. So we have a security team that checks the properties from 11 p.m. till 3 a.m. every single night. That's to ensure bylaws being followed. Also ensure that's nothing happening. The worst thing to happen is really to tick off your neighbors, right? There's not a lot of damage that happens in the units, but it's very hard to repair your neighbor relationship if something does happen. So that's something we're very conscious of in terms of garbage, in terms of noise, in terms of even just parking in the wrong spot is frustrating for these neighbors. So we believe in that you should be screening, just like a tenant, before they come in. Don't just let them come in, say that they're a bad guest, and kick them out.
I got a quick question.
Sure.
When it comes to the corporate, you had the equator, there we go. So what did you do to connect with them? What were your steps? Like, what advice can you give to everybody here, like to do something like this in a different business? Like, what did you do here?
To be quite honest, I feel very blessed to have worked for CLV Group before. I find them a very innovative company, very forward-thinking in the rental market. They actually taught me this, to be quite honest. So what they taught me is that the more that, let's say, an Airbnb guest or a tenant is connected to their community, the less likely that tenant is to leave. So let's say you get a gym membership for the gym that's across the street. They now might not leave because they go to the gym every single day. So you want your tenant to be connected to the community as best as possible. We believe that is the forefront of Airbnb by all means, is that when they are coming here, it's not that they're just sleeping in these units, they are contributing back financially and responsibly to these businesses, especially these smaller businesses, which really helps, especially in the vibrant market and growing those communities as well. So all we did is we have someone in charge of this. He emails out, calls out, and goes to the stores and asks for those partnerships. Yeah.
Wait a sec.
I was wondering, let's say if you wanted to manage your own Airbnb, but let's say you had your own staff, but they were busy on certain days, could we then use you to manage it, or is it an exclusive thing where it's all or nothing?
I think at this point, we are really invested in our guys and need to make sure that our landlords are taken care of at this point. So at this point, we're just really looking for management services coupled with the cleaning. We do have 76 cleaning contracts. Those have been with us for a while, but I think the attention needs to be given to our guys properly, and I think they've invested, like, a one-bedroom to furnish is around $3,000. So they've invested a lot into these units, and we want to make sure that they're getting that back. So this time, no, we're unfortunately not. Yes.
Do you have any issues with condo buildings, for example?
I don't actually do condo buildings, mostly for that reason. In terms of regulation, I mostly do duplexes, triplexes, and multi-units. We have a lot of the duplexes and triplexes, and then in the Glebe and Westboro, we have single-family homes. I have one condo, but I have that myself. But other than that, I don't have any condos.
You mentioned that you vet them by looking at the rating that they get in terms of the visits that they've had. What else do you do to vet the guests?
Yeah, absolutely. So it doesn't really matter on their rating to us, to be quite honest, if they have a 5-star review. We still vet them. The reason being is, the best way to put it is, let's say someone travels 5 times in the same city in the same month, there's probably a reason that they're doing something that they probably shouldn't be doing. So even though they have a 5-star review, we have declined 5-star reviews before. So we're looking them up on Facebook, we're looking them up on Instagram, and we're running their phone numbers. You'd be surprised what you can find by running someone's phone number really quickly. You find a lot from it. And then as well, if, let's say, someone books and we're uncomfortable with that reservation, you can always cancel it penalty-free with Airbnb.
Cool. Okay. Got another one back here.
Hey, Jen.
Hey.
So I've used Jen for since the beginning, I think, almost when you started. It's been over a year and a half. She's amazing.
Aw.
And my income has definitely more than doubled.
Thanks.
So I highly recommend her. I do have a question.
Sure.
And it's regarding, there's a, I don't know if it's rumors or whatever, but I know certain cities have shut down Airbnb in residential areas. I know the Gatineau side, I believe, has, as well as some cities. I know at the real estate board, they've mentioned, I don't know, maybe Tony even can help answer that, but if you know, anything coming up with regards to restricting Airbnb in Ottawa?
Absolutely, that's a great question. We get asked that a lot. To my understanding at this point, I don't believe it will be in the near future. I think my standpoint on it, from an economic development standpoint, it might not make sense. And I think the research needs to be done on that, and a consultant needs to come in to properly actually look what this market is. So that's why we really like doing these presentations, is because the market isn't exactly what you see in the media. So when it comes from an economic development standpoint, they're getting 13% on your HST, and they're getting 4% on your occupancy tax, which goes directly from the city, from Airbnb. So that's a big portfolio. There's about 2,500 Airbnbs in downtown Ottawa. So that's definitely a lot of money that's going into it. So I think from an economic development standpoint. The other thing is that if you're looking at that occupancy rate at 91%, that's very high. That shows that there is the need for Airbnbs in the city. Last weekend we were sold out, this weekend we're sold out, and next weekend we're sold out. So there's definitely the need. Also, there's a different kind of consumer that's coming in. So I think if they were to go into regulation, hopefully will have a seat and can voice those concerns. But I think what it comes down to is the proactive hosting, responsible hosting, because that's where the concern's coming in, is that people are not watching these units and then bad things happen, and that's the only thing that gets portrayed in the media. No one's going to talk about the cute little family that's in the unit right now, right? And that's really what we're seeing, and that's what needs to be voiced. So there definitely is concerns of that, but I hope if it comes down to that point that there's a consultant brought in and who's doing thorough research on it.
Okay, awesome. AJ?
Thanks, guys.
Hold it.
Oh,
Thank you, Genevieve. That was excellent. So on behalf, you're the last one. You got the most special gift from Tony and Sue. This is a certificate for your local partnerships. It's 30 minutes free back and lower back rubs from Tony for all of your Airbnb clients.
oh, thank you. That's very sweet.
you very
Thanks
much.
so much. Appreciate it. Thanks.
I have a free table over here, Genevieve.
Oh, gosh.